one time LinkedIn is reading the time zone wrong. Good morning and welcome to Money and Mindset. I'm Dr. Stephanie, known as Dr. Money.
And I am Dr. Thyonne, known as your story genius. Yes, how are you, Dr. Money?
Hey, TG, how you doing this morning?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. I cannot complain. Been out for a run, so I still have my glow going on. Yeah, I'm doing good. What about you?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm doing well. And speaking of running, Ardrey is running this weekend at the Jamaica Nationals. Last year, he came in third in his age category. And so they've invited him to run, and that's happening this weekend. So we're headed to Kingston.
Okay, that's fantastic. And Ardrey is our herbalist and doctor and medical expert.
Yes. Dr. Ardrey Oliver, functional medicine physician. Yes. Yeah, so he's showing us that he can practice what he preaches.
That's what it's about, right? Practicing what you preach. We talk about a lot of things, but can we actually get them done?
Yes. So he'd be very, very proud of you for having that legitimate sweat on your brow.
Yes, I'm just like, ooh, I didn't realize I was still so warm, but now some of this may just be another type of sweat. My own personal summer. Most people don't like to talk about their personal summers. I hear people say, "Oh no, I've never experienced that." I'm like, okay, one day we might.
Exactly. Yeah, nothing wrong with having a private. In fact, the most beautiful thing is to perspire and release those toxins out of your body. That is exactly your body working at its finest.
Mm-hmm. So it's been good. It feels good. It feels good to get off of that mountain that we were climbing up today, hiking. So what are we going to talk about today on money and mindset?
Well, I mean, last week, Love, wasn't she just outstanding? I mean, think about that. I mean, just listening to her determine, come on. She's online in college. Most people goofing off, grown people goofing off, but she decided to work 2 jobs while still doing her online classes and start her business. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, perfect name. She was absolutely lovely. Love was lovely. And to think about how she set her mind to do something a little different, to actually say, you know what, I'm not going to just be stuck in the house doing classes online, which I have to do anyway. I have more time now because I've done my classes and I'm going to create a business. That's the kind of mindset you have to have if you really want to get ahead. And a lot of us don't have that, but I think you know that a lot of us were born with it.
Absolutely. I would say that it's part of our DNA, and irrespective of the narrative that has been shared, I think sometimes what people forget, and maybe it's not so much that they forget, I think it's the source of where have you gotten your history about our story? Right? Whose narrative are you believing? And based upon that narrative determines who informed, what information you get, which is why it's so important in terms of what you do, in my opinion, of helping people to tell their stories. Our stories make up the fabric of what becomes known as our history. If our stories are suppressed, then who's telling our story and with what level of accuracy?
Absolutely. And we can go back to, if you look at ancient history, you go back to Mesopotamia, you go back to Egypt, when things were being built, the first entrepreneurs. That is what we have a legacy from. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Egypt is not in Africa. Then tell me, what country is it in? What continent is it in? Because we only have a few, and I believe it's right there in Africa.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely is. Yeah. So that's the thing, is when people realize that, everywhere that those of us from the continent of Africa have gone, we have been about building education, science. That is the DNA of our ancestors. That is our DNA. And so it shouldn't be surprising that the entrepreneurial spirit finds a way to plant itself and blossom, even though the history of destruction and disruption to Black Wall Streets. We've had Black Wall Streets all over, and they've been destroyed with precision, with deliberation in that effort, because they knew that if you strike at the economic root of a people, then you have to reset and rebuild. And so with some people, some of them said, okay, they give up, they'll go and get a job. That's fine, to get a job, to gain education, gain stability, if that's whatever. But that's not the it all and be all. If you want to create generational wealth, you have to create something that you own so that you have something to sell for a value to create that wealth.
Absolutely. And I tell you, this Juneteenth, I have to say, in the beginning, when it was announced that it would be a holiday, I wasn't very excited. I have to say, I was not excited about that. I thought a couple of things. I thought first, how long it took for us to get Dr. King's birthday as a holiday, and the fight and the struggle that we went through to have that be a holiday. And it's a holiday now, and that's great. This one seemed to come out of nowhere to me. And it came at a time when there are fights for police reform, to stop voter suppression, heck, reparations.
Yeah.
Yet it was sort of like, okay, look, give them a holiday, give them another holiday. This will quiet them down. Yeah. And that's how I felt about it. And I just wasn't excited about it, though I'm not unappreciative of it. I wasn't very excited about it. Now, on Juneteenth, when I saw how people celebrated it and the ways in which it benefited the community, I got a little more excited, because as you talked about how we've had to rebuild and how these factions come at the economic core of what we do to destroy us and make it such that we are not successful. On Juneteenth, going here in Los Angeles, I drove by Leimert Park, and I tell you, every type of stand you could think of was selling something, and people were buying, and people of all colors were coming out into Leimert Park. So to me, them supporting businesses like that was well worth that holiday. And then I even posted on Facebook, I think you saw it and liked it, our friends, our guests that we had here, Entrepreneurs at Heart, Sip and Sonder, the coffee shop, they were being hosted by the LA Rams and the Lakers, LA Lakers. Was it the Lakers? Yes, and the Lakers, to actually offer free coffee and pastries all day. So the Lakers and the Rams were paying for it, and the community could come out and have it. So, I started telling everybody, go over there, go over there, go over there, because that is how we keep these businesses open. And people were coming in, and they got to see Sip and Sonder and got to experience what it was like to be in that space. So that was actually very nice as well, to have that experience happen. And I had a chance. I think we've had both their owners on.
Yes, Shanita and Amanda Jane. Yes. I was really so proud, just to see them. And always, I love all of the awareness, because, that's really what, again, their vision was about. Two corporate attorneys that moved from New York to California and said, hey, we want to create a place that will be a unique space in the community, and being able to not only come in, but to quickly create community around them. They did a lot of work of involving themselves in the community, down to co-founding the Los Angeles Black Investors Club, where again, they looked at how they could contribute to the community, as well as being a part of the community, and then building a space. And so, just the brilliance behind, these entrepreneurs. I'm so proud to have had an opportunity to participate in their journey, in both, meeting them in the beginning, helping them to capture a location for their business vision, and then joining the board of the Los Angeles Black Investors Club, where we continue to support entrepreneurs, through the business pitch, educational series, fireside chats, and all of those things. But yeah, it's fabulous. And so we like to see that level of support and enthusiasm around the country, around the world.
Yes.
Our entrepreneurs. Absolutely.
Yes. And I'm going to share really quickly. This is their store. Here, this is their coffee machine. Can you see it?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
They're sourcing coffee now.
Yes.
There's the machine where they can grind the beans, I guess, and everything. We didn't go inside there, but we see this is the inside of Sip and Sonder.
Yes, yes, it's so gorgeous. I actually have a bag with me here in fabulous Port Antonio, Jamaica, of their good coffee that I picked up the last time I was in town. So definitely a fan and supporter.
I'm going to show one more here real quick. As I shared with my daughter, when we started talking about communities, I was sharing with my daughter, I said, why does this place look like your old school? She went to a private school. And you would always see a lot of, basically young white guys sitting on the sofas over there. I said,
Right.
"What does it look like Culver City?" And she says, "Mom, don't you know that Inglewood is the new Culver City and Culver City is the new Santa Monica?" Inside of Sip and Sonder.
Yes, it just, I mean, it's a beautifully designed space, and it definitely creates comfortable space, for community. It's so inviting. I remember when they were going through the design, they had some up and coming designers, design the place, and the storyboard for the themes were just, I was blown away with just how beautiful they designed, and the implementation of those designs, how they came to life. It's
It
just
was
beautiful.
amazing. And it was great to see the different people coming into the community like this, where, sitting around, on their phones. Of course, that's this new generation. I was
Right,
reading
right.
books, but no, they're on their phones. They're reading something, probably reading a book on their phones.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, yeah.
Great community gathering. It was so nice to be in that area and to know that we had Sip and Sonder on the show talking about entrepreneurship and who we
Yes,
are. And like you said, it's in our DNA. So to have businesses like that in the community and to support those businesses, that's what Juneteenth is about. How do
absolutely.
we re-envision? How do we reimagine ourselves as entrepreneurs of today and of the future?
Absolutely. And so, I know that they have growth and expansion plans, but I would love to see Sip and Saunders crop up in communities, across the globe, really. We definitely have talked about some joint efforts here in Jamaica. I have a few coffee related ideas that I'm twisting their arms to consider. I think they're interested. We see the benefit of sourcing natural coffee, especially Blue Mountain coffee from Jamaica. And we see some amazing opportunities here in this community, as well as, again, back in the States around those products and opportunities. So yeah, I just felt so proud. I was just, I was, happy to see that those activities and festivities happening. So, of course, I was buried in my law school studies and books, but nonetheless.
Okay, that's okay. And the beauty of community understanding these businesses and understanding that how important entrepreneurship is and how we build businesses
Right.
for Lakers and the Rams to actually represent and come out and say, you know what, we're going to cover for this amount of time. And I'll tell you, it started with the Rams saying, we're going to do this between 9 and 12 so that we can give the community coffee. And there was a woman with the foundation of the Lakers, and she said, well, we want to do something. Her son had told her, Mom, you have to go see Sip and Sonder. And
Right.
finally, she went to see Sip and Sonder, and she says, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want to do something too. So they were going to do the same thing, 9 to 12. But then she said, no, wait a minute. Why don't we just do the whole day? You guys do 9 to 12. We'll do 12 to 3. We'll just make a day of it, and we will just both contribute. And then they put it in their feed, in their internal feed,
Yeah.
so that other people would know about the business.
Yes.
I think was phenomenal for
Yeah.
the Lakers and the Rams to come out and say, hey, this is a Black business that we're supporting. Go out and support it on Juneteenth. Go get a cup of coffee. Go get a pastry. And that is what Juneteenth is about for me. It's about supporting your local businesses and making sure that we continue to not just survive, but thrive. And I believe Sip and Sonder will thrive. And I'm so excited for them too. So I would love to see some more Sip and Sonders around as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So definitely pushing to see that happen. And in fact, it's an interesting thing. Today I noticed I've mentioned, and we're going to have invite him on as a guest too. In fact, we have talked about the idea of when we take our hiatus and then when we return, I want us to schedule a session with Chef Kitty. This morning, Chef Kitty put a call out on his Facebook feed that I happened to capture before we went live. He's over in Uganda, and unfortunately, while he was there, I didn't know this, he caught malaria. And although now he's on the mend, he was indicating that perhaps his trip was a little bit longer extended because of the illness. And so he was reaching out to his community of supporters and saying, hey, if you had an opportunity, if you would go to his website and purchase one of his books, because of course he lives off of the income generated from his publication. So I put this information in our chat. So I'm gonna see if I can release the information to his various sites. And so if you have the opportunity and the spirit and the desire, you know, support our brother Chef Kitty. As soon as I get off air, I'm gonna purchase some more books as well in support of him. And we'll be talking about some work because he is our executive chef for 420 Wellness Global. And so we have programming that we're doing. We're doing a series called Dining with the Doctors, and that show will feature featuring Chef Kitty. So it's Dr. Ardrey, myself, and Chef Kitty. And so it's going to be a beautiful show because not only will you learn about all the various nutritious foods, and, you know, Ardrey has a way of making it entertaining. Chef is just like a brilliant food scientist. So he's going to take you through all the nutritional benefits. And even we're adding an element where you'll be able to cook along. So you'll be able to subscribe to the show, receive your food kit 2 days before the show airs, and you can cook along as well on camera. So that's going to be an amazing, amazing series that starts in September. Yeah. So
I'll look forward to that, and we'll make sure to see Chef Kitty.
Yeah.
Biz, chefkitty.com, and libratio.com. So definitely look into the feed and go and take a look at Chef Kitty and what Chef Kitty's doing. It sounds great. Sounds great.
Yeah, I see Al Marshall. Al Marshall, look at you. Al, one of my favorite people. Now, you talk about supporting entrepreneurs. Al is true to his word. He supports entrepreneurs all the time. I had the pleasure of meeting Al as I was an executive joining an organization in Orange County in my career in real estate development, you know, doing the thing that I love. And he was one of the first persons that I had an opportunity and pleasure of working with, and I'm so honored to still have a relation. So shout out to you, Al. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And yes, you are a true supporter. You are a true entrepreneur and a true supporter of entrepreneurs. So much love to you. Glad to see you there.
Yes, yes. So this is our Entrepreneur Week, I guess. We are going to be wrapping this up, just talking about what it is to be an entrepreneur. We have talked about so many things over this last season, and we're going to be wrapping things up. I think next week will be our last week together for a little while. We're going to take a hiatus for the month of July, going to celebrate a little bit, maybe take our own hiatus, and see what you all are doing. We'd love to hear what you're doing over the summer. Are you visiting places? Are you investing in real estate? Are you starting new businesses? And how you're coming back out into our new normal, because it is a new normal. I don't know if I'll ever go out again without carrying a mask with me, because you just don't know what's happening. And there are some places that have always had masks. I know when I visited China, they always had people with masks. And I first started wearing a mask when I was in China because I thought, well, they must know something that I don't know.
Something about the air quality or something, right? Absolutely.
How do you plan on coming back into the new normal? What is it like in Jamaica right now? Are people out and about? What's going on?
So it's not quite normal. There still are some curfews that have been instituted. Again, the idea is to have a certain amount of people receive the vaccinations, those that have the desire to receive so. But what's interesting here is that there have been low cases of the actual virus. And so, there definitely is that debate about, if we're not contracting the virus, then why should we go and vaccinate? So I'm not going to get into, the politics of which side to be on in reference, to that discussion. But certainly there are people occupying both sides, and vaccines are being made available. When I came in, I had to both be tested, of course, to come in, and then when I'm prepared to leave, so far the protocol is to be tested. And Jamaica has set it up where you're able to get the test at the airport. So maybe I get to the airport, 30 minutes, an hour earlier than what I already would have done for an international flight. And I'm able to pay for and have my tests taken right there at the airport and then get the results before boarding my flight. So it's been pretty seamless as it relates to that regard. The weekend was beautiful. Again, at Bayview, they seem to be up to definitely, if not full occupancy, close to full occupancy. So it was pretty busy around here. And I could hear Port Antonio is a beautiful place to party. So you could hear all the cars and the music and, the beaches. And I was thinking, oh, homework, if only I could get through this homework so I could go out and participate. And I wanted to go and be bad, but I couldn't after having a consultation already with one of my professors. I said, dang it. I got to stay on task. I got to stay on task. But, it was just a fabulous weekend, I would say, here.
Good. And it was pretty nice here. California opened fully on the 15th of June, and people started coming out. It has not been as crowded as I thought it would be. People, I think, are still a little apprehensive. I must say, in Leimert Park, I drove around because if there were 5% of the people with masks on, that would have been lucky. And I know that's a population that majority of them are probably not vaccinated. Yeah. And it's a very small space. So even though you can get, away with not wearing your mask outdoors, and they tell you can not have to wear them outdoors because of that small space and the number of people that were out, it was crowded. It was packed. I was sort of like, you may want to wear some mask around outdoors with that number of people. But it seems as though people had a great time celebrating. At Sip and Sonder, there weren't as many people in close proximity. People actually practiced social distancing, and many people did have their mask on, and then when going outside, taking the mask off. So it was a little more controlled at Sip and Sonder. And that might have been because the Lakers had their little vehicle there and they were giving away masks, and Rams were giving away masks. So people were taking the mask and using them, which was great.
That's fabulous.
People were out and about, and I noticed people are now going to restaurants more and engaging with each other more. So
yeah. I know. Well, I think once we do go on hiatus, especially for July, we have some activities planned here. We're doing, kicking off 7-day detox rejuvenation plans. We have some people coming in July. And so we're excited about those activities. So we think July will be big and busy and I know that's still a marker, I guess, in terms of a number, a target for the percentage of vaccinated of the population. So that also is supposed to, I guess, trigger another level of comfort.
Yes.
To go out and socialize.
The news this morning, and basically they said we're probably not going to hit that mark. So they're like, well, the president's probably not going to get his wish for July 4th, but we're working towards it. So we'll see what happens. But it's great that everything is opening back up. I hope that our viewers and listeners are actually considering what they can do in that entrepreneurial space or in a leadership space. If you are working in a position, how are you showing up in that position? How are you leading? How are you making the most of that position? Last night was our first leadership academy class for She Ready fellows who have internships. It was a wonderful class. We talked about self-assessment, taking a look at yourself and where you are. And we talked about self-esteem. And it was interesting because many of the interns had just started their internships yesterday, the first day of their internships, and were apprehensive and a little afraid that maybe they weren't up to par. Maybe they didn't have what it took. Maybe they couldn't do the things that they were asked. And again, that's a sign of where their self-esteem was. When you're not told who you are from the beginning, when you're not told that it's in your DNA to be great, you may not believe it. And so last night's session was all about explaining what was in their DNA, just so what we're talking about today, that they were born with greatness, not the story of someone didn't want them or they were taken from their parents. That is a part of their story.
Sure.
But there's another part of their story of how they overcome obstacles and how they got to be She Ready Fellows. And if they got that far, we know they could go so much further. So I think if our listeners, our viewers would examine yourself, make a self-assessment. Who are you? What's in your DNA? How are you showing up? How are you leading in your job? How are you leading in a new entrepreneurial experience, if that's what you want to do? And know that that's who we are. We're born to lead. We're born to be great. It's important that we take that lesson so that we could add everything up and at the end of the day, have some sort of business like Love did, just out of her head. I'm going to start a beauty business, and starting this business in a pandemic, buying a building, being successful in a pandemic, like our sisters with Sip and Sonder did, pivoting their coffee business, becoming sourcers, finding the source of coffee versus having it in a coffee shop. That is what we're born of. We come up with these ideas. We're innovative. We're creative. We know how to make things work. And so I would just encourage our viewers to start looking at what their new normal looks like and how we're stepping out into that leadership role, either in a job or in a business that you'll call your own. And Dr. Money can tell you how to find the money.
Absolutely. TJ, you put such an excellent bow on that, because you're right. We were talking about just that whole foundation of knowing yourself in the context of, we were talking about customer service. We touched on customer service. And so I was having a conversation with someone earlier regarding customer service and the importance of customer service training. And what I said is, well, before we even start talking about customer service, we've got to start with self, because a lot of the people who are in these service jobs don't have an awareness of self. And then you're asking them to provide a certain level of service that they've never experienced. And then they've never received in terms of that type of treatment. So you got to have to kind of step back and deal with that self first before you can even go forward, or it has to be part of the overall training. But you're right. Whether you are occupying a role in a corporation or you're an entrepreneur, listen, we need all levels of support, and, how you show up in a leadership role. I remember after having been CEO of a pretty sizable organization, when I made the career shift and moved into real estate development, one of the ways that I was very impactful, in addition to, I was impactful in a number of ways, but one of the ways in particular was making sure that our consultants and our subcontractors who were working on our jobs got timely payments. See, it had been a process where some people didn't have the concept of what an entrepreneur goes through. So they just threw their invoices kind of in a stack in their offices, and that stack would just build. And unless the job was threatened to be stopped at some times. And so you imagine if a person gets to a point where they have to stop a job because they can no longer meet payroll, then you have stretched them beyond, their possibility. And it's so unfortunate that bigger organizations tend to do this often to the small guys, whereas the bigger organization has access to the capital. Why do you force a small guy to carry you when they can't even get the rates that you can get? They can't afford to carry you, and you've already drilled them down in their pricing. So their pricing has not factored in carrying costs to finance you. So it's like, stop that. Stop that. That is not right. That's predatory. Stop that. Stop stealing from the small businesses that are trying to survive, because you impact their ability to get capital. Yes. How can you get capital? Well, they need for their bills to be paid on time. That's how they can get access to capital. Pay them on time. Pay them honestly what they've earned. Stop stealing from small businesses. It's not sustainable. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. So if we want our economy to grow, and we want it to grow rapidly, then we need our small businesses to be able to address their capital, capacity, and customer needs, because they are going to be the first employers in most instances in terms of getting that local community thriving again. So that's, before I get on any more of my soapbox, I think I'll put a pin in it right there, right there, right there. I'll stop it right there.
Support our small businesses. That's what it's about. Greg Sneed, thanks for joining us again. You are our king, as you called us your queens. And everyone, remember, support small businesses. Entrepreneurship is in your DNA. Leadership is in your DNA. Go out and lead and make something happen.
All right, guys, and I'm coming to you again from 420 Wellness, hanging out in Port Antonio, Jamaica. You guys know what to do. We'll see you again next week, same time. Money and Mindset with Dr. Money and Dr. Story Genius. Have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next week.